Hello, this is the Office of Career and Professional Development, and this is our branding and networking presentation. There are handouts available on our website, albany.edu/career, that might be helpful for you to look at as you go through this presentation. The LinkedIn profile components handout and a handout on informational interviews as well. To begin, we're going to talk about branding. Branding is basically simple words associated with a company, a person, or words that are used to describe what it is to someone else. When I work with a live audience and we're starting to discuss branding, we first focus on the University at Albany. So I ask, University at Albany, what are some words that come to mind when you hear UAlbany or you hear University at Albany? And usually people say research, diversity, undergrad, grad, Great Danes, unleash greatness, one of the greats, athletics, community. So then I go on to ask, well, how did you know this? So then usually people know it from marketing, they say social media, word of mouth, people being in the community, website materials, and the actual reputation as well. So now that we've talked about branding and we've talked about a company's brand as well, University at Albany, now we're going to talk about a person and try and think of a person's personal brand. So Oprah Winfrey. When I ask people about Oprah and what her brand is, some words that people use: she's consistent, she's true, genuine, she's a philanthropist, she's an effective communicator, really good public speaker, she's generous. So then I ask, well, how did you know this about her? And usually people say it's because she's had a really long career, she's been consistent, it's her reputation, she's gone into multiple areas of the industry, so we see her in different arenas as well. So movies, TV, YouTube, magazines, websites. So with this, thinking about Oprah, thinking about the company example that we used as well, now we're going to move into reflecting on what your own personal brand would be.
Okay, now that we've looked at branding from an organizational perspective as well as a personal perspective, I want you to start looking at personal branding as it relates to you. I would encourage you to focus on answering these questions and spending some time reflecting on them to help you define your personal brand. Take out a pen and a pad and jot down your responses to these questions. What do people frequently praise you for or give you compliments on? We all have people that praise and compliment us. What is it about you that people praise and compliment you on? What topics do your friends and peers frequently ask your advice or opinion on? We all have friends and peers in our circles that always come to us and ask us for advice or our opinion. When people are introducing you to others, how do they describe you? And then finally, what kind of work do you get energized or passionate about? We all have stuff that we're passionate and energized about. What is it for you? Here are a few more questions for you to reflect on your personal brand. Maybe you've never thought about yourself as a personal brand, but in today's market, it's important to send messaging out to others, whether it be organizations or individuals, about who you are, what your values are, what your priorities are, what your mission is. What value do you bring to the table and to the discussion? In essence, what's your value proposition? These questions will help you to further develop that proposition of who you are. What did you think about your personal brand prior to this? Did you think about it at all? Did you think about it a little bit? Or have you spent a lot of time thinking about who you are as a personal brand? Why do you think you need to know your brand? Why is it important for you to have a personal brand? First and foremost, maybe to market oneself, but also, how do you express your values? How do you communicate your values, your priorities, your dreams, and your goals to the world? And then finally, who can help you figure out your personal brand? Who in your circle that you can go to and ask, what is it about you that makes you special? What is it about you that makes you unique? What value proposition or value add do you bring to the conversation? So once again, reflect on these questions to further develop your brand. Jot down your responses. Jot down the responses of your peers, your friends, or your acquaintances in relation to these questions.
It is important for you to be aware of your social media presence and your online presence in general. So you really want to make sure that it's influencing your brand in a positive way rather than a negative way. So on your social media accounts, be sure to look over your privacy settings and review what's private versus public. Employers will Google you and they will see whatever comes up, and that might include your social media accounts. So make sure you're Googling yourself so that way you can be aware of what's out there as well and you can see what comes up when you type in your name. You really want to make sure you're smart and intentional with what you're posting. Ask yourself, if someone in your professional network saw this, would you be embarrassed? If the answer is yes, maybe reconsider posting that.
So, what is networking? Networking is really about relationship building. Its main focus should be on developing mutually beneficial relationships between yourself and others. It can't be just about what you're gaining from the relationship or the experience, but it also should be about what value are you providing others in that networking relationship. What is your value proposition? If you notice, I focus greatly on value proposition. What value do we provide others? And that's really what networking is about. It's about building mutually beneficial relationships with others.
So when thinking about networking, there are two main types. So first up is spontaneous, and that's something that can happen when you least expect it. So an example of this is meeting someone at a friend's birthday dinner and learning about their position within a company you're interested in. After talking, they give you their contact information to follow up with them about their open positions. Another type is planned. So meeting a recruiter at a job fair and discussing positions in another state that you are planning to move to. The recruiter says to email them and they will get you in touch with a contact from the other state. Both types are really beneficial, they just happen in different ways, and this is why it's important for you to be prepared by both knowing your own personal brand, but also how to speak about yourself confidently. To prepare for networking, there are some things that you need to do beforehand. So first up, update your resume and really be confident with how that looks. Identify your goals and be clear about them. What specifically do you plan to network about? What specifically are you trying to learn? And lastly, make sure you know yourself, including your personal brand, your interest, and your passion, so that way you can communicate that to others.
Informational interviews are another form of networking, and it's a great way to learn about someone, their role, their position, their company, and the industry they work in. It's a great way to learn about their current and or past position and duties. It's also a great opportunity to learn about their career path, how they got to where they currently are now, so that you can know how to get there as well. Also, you can learn about the educational background that took to get them into their current role and industry. It's also a great way to learn about what an industry is like and what are the trends in that industry that lead to employment opportunities. It's a great way to conduct an effective job search. The more you learn about a position, a company, and an industry, the more effective it is for you to be able to search for jobs in that industry. Equally, it's a great way to identify people you want to network with, including people you already know. People that you may not even think about can be part of your network, whether it's family, friends, peers, co-workers, or supervisors. All of these people, people that you currently know, can be conduits to employment opportunities. Even if you're looking to change careers, they might be in a position to point you in the right direction. Also, you want to think of people outside of your immediate network, other people that you might know as well, as employers, co-workers in other companies and or industries, people that you might know in different organizations, clubs or associations that you are a member of, as well as your fellow U Albany alums. All of these can be great resources and conduits to employment opportunities. Think about having informational interviews with many of these people that I've just mentioned. Once again, they could be great conduits to opportunity. Remember that this is a learning relationship. It's a two-way relationship, a relationship where you're providing value as well as they're providing value to you. Before you conduct an informational interview or network with anyone, you want to be sure that you're able to communicate effectively the value that you provide. One of the best ways to do that is through a short 30 to 45-second elevator pitch or elevator speech. It's your way of being able to communicate who you are, what your goals are, as well as the value that you can provide a company. Here's some quick tips on how to do that. First and foremost, you want to start off with your name, your career goals, relevant experiences to that job and or industry or company, transferable skills that you have that translate easily to that job, company, and or industry. And then you want to top it off with your reason for wanting to talk with that individual. If you're at an event or on a phone call or at a job fair, don't repeat questions that you hear others ask. Make sure that you come prepared with 2 to 3 questions specifically related to that company, those companies, and or that industry. Show them that you've done your homework. Be sensitive to their time and don't stay too long or go over your time on a phone call. Ask for the best way to follow up and stay in contact with them. Be sure that you are not asking questions about things like benefits or salary. The links on the side of this slide are 2 YouTube videos that show you more in depth how to build an effective elevator speech. Remember, the elevator speech is your first entree into communicating the value that you provide. This is an example of a message you can send someone requesting an informational interview. Keep in mind that if you're messaging someone on LinkedIn for the first time, it won't allow you to attach a file, but you can offer to send it to them. Additionally, keep in mind that if you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn for the first time, you may be limited to 300 characters in your initial message. Once they accept your invitation to connect, then your ability to message with them is unlimited. Looking at our example here, you can see that Pat is an educator with 8 years of experience, and she's interested in learning more about a career in the publishing field because she's exploring on becoming a children's book author. This is a great example of someone who's looking to make a career change or pivot to a different career. When sending a message to someone requesting to meet with them to discuss their job, their career, and their industry, be mindful of using language that relates to making a career change or pivoting into that industry. When conducting informational interviews, be sure to follow these steps. Be sure to have questions prepared ahead of time and rank them in the order of importance. Next, you want to make sure you call from a quiet place where you can't be interrupted and you're able to get good phone reception. Also, you want to reintroduce yourself and explain why you're reaching out to them. Next, you want to begin by asking questions that you prepared. However, be flexible if the conversation takes a different path or direction. Be flexible in being able to answer any questions that the person you're conducting the informational interview may have for you as well. Be sure to keep track of time. Let your contact know when the allotted time is almost up. Offer to end the conversation and follow the contact's lead on ending or continuing the conversation. You never know. The person you're interviewing may want to continue the conversation right then and there. If you have the time to do so, then by all means, continue the conversation. I would suggest, for example, if you provide a half hour of time to conduct the informational interview, that on your schedule, you allot for an additional 15 minutes so that if the interview takes longer or the person you're interviewing wants to talk more, guess what? You have the ability and the flexibility to do so. Make sure that you're sincere and that you show interest in the conversation. Thank your contact or contacts for volunteering their time. Remember, they didn't have to take time out to speak to you, so make sure to thank them. Be sure to send them a thank you email as well as a follow-up to your conversation. Ask your contact or contacts if they would provide you with other professionals that can offer additional career information. If the connection is genuine, ask if you can stay in touch with them and be sure that you do. You want to make sure that you develop this relationship and continue to stay in touch. Once again, an informational interview is another tool in your networking arsenal. It gives you the ability to expand your network, not only in breadth, but also in depth.
So tools to utilize for networking. First up, email. If you're given someone's email that maybe you met them at a job fair, someone refers you to them, you can always email them, but make sure you do explain how you got their contact information or who gave it to you. UCAN is the UAlbany Career Advisory Network, and that's where you can go on and engage with other University at Albany alumni. And then you can also use LinkedIn, and that's obviously you can apply for jobs on there, but it's also really great to network with professionals and other University at Albany alumni.
We at the Office of Career and Professional Development would like to thank you for joining us on this alumni networking webinar. Just as a reminder, alumni who graduated with more than 5 years from the institution can contact the Alumni Association for career questions and assistance. You can do so by following the link provided in this slide. If you're an alum that's graduated in less than 5 years from the institution, you can reach out to the Office of Career and Professional Development for additional questions and assistance. Once again, thank you for joining us, and go Great Danes.